your host, Ricky Alexander, every Wednesday on Sky FM 93.1 from 8 p.m. People-centered, community-focused, building economic empowerment and resilience in our constituencies. Let's talk. Let us discuss. Constituency Vibes with me, your host, Ricky Alexander, every Wednesday on Sky FM 93.1 from 8 p.m. People-centered, community-focused, building economic empowerment and resilience in our constituencies. Let's talk. Let us discuss. Constituency Vibes with me, your host, Ricky Alexander, every Wednesday on Sky FM 93.1 from 8 p.m. People-centered, community-focused from 8 p.m. From 8 p.m. People-centered, community-focused, building economic empowerment and resilience in our constituencies. Let's talk. Let us discuss. Constituency Vibes with me, your host, Ricky Alexander, every Wednesday on Sky FM 93.1 from 8 p.m.
Hello, good evening, listeners, good evening, viewers. And of course, it is a joy to be with you this evening, this Wednesday, on Constituency Vibes. And of course, we're going to have a very interesting and exciting program as we always do. And I would like to take the time to wish everybody still early in the new year, healthy and productive 2021 to all St. Lucians at home and abroad, especially those in the diaspora. We have a few housekeeping matters that we always do, so we will let you know that so that we can make the program run smoothly. Thou shalt not use language that is inflammatory, insulting, offensive, or slanderous to the host, guests, or public officials or persons in general. Thou shalt not listen to thyself on radio, as it may cause feedback. Thou shalt practice good etiquette when expressing your point of view. Thou shalt choose to identify the area that thou art calling from. Thou shalt respect the views of other callers without making insults or abuses with reference to previous callers, even though you may disagree with the caller's point of view. Thou shalt be gentle and civil at all times. So listeners, viewers, welcome to Constituency Vibes. This is the program where we focus on what the government is doing at the various constituencies, where we take a holistic approach to sustainable development in a people-centered way to deliver progress and growth to the people at the constituency level. The government's perspective on local economic development at the constituency level involves a process by which the public, private and non-state actors and partners work collectively to create better conditions for economic growth and employment generation. The purpose is to build the economic capacity in the local area to improve its economic future and the quality of life for all St. Lucians, to create an environment where jobs are created and to enhance the development and aesthetics of the constituencies. The government is focused on that holistic, sustainable approach in a people-centered way to build a new St. Lucia. And this is done through the philosophy and the strategic planning, which is designed to fight the wrongs that need resistance and to help the cause that needs assistance. And the government's development approach, its visionary approach and forward-thinking leadership of the Prime Minister, Honorable Alan Shastney, views the participatory development, where our people are involved in the process of development, as a process of planned change or managed learning. It is a message of hope. It is a message of resilience, capacity development, and not handouts and dependence. It's a government that believes in giving a man not giving a man a fish, but teaching people rather to fish so that they will always have fish. This is a message of team unity, building capacity, working in the spirit of harmony, care, and respect for others. My guest this evening is the Honorable Dominic Fede, Member of Parliament for Anslery Canaries and Minister for Tourism, Information and Broadcasting, and Chairman of the COVID Center. And of course, so welcome, Minister. Welcome to the program, Constituency Vibes.
Thank you very much. A special good evening to your listeners all over St. Lucia. And I'm looking forward to the discussions here tonight. Hopefully we can find some new solutions to the many challenges that we face, but also tonight is an opportunity for us to look at the progress we have made over the last 4 years, as well as the opportunities that we have for the future. And I look forward to us crystallizing these and to bring about a sense of hope and purpose and unity to your viewers.
Okay, thank you very much, Minister. And of course, we are delving into that wonderful and beautiful constituency of Anslery Canaries, beautiful landscape, beautiful scenery.
Most beautiful of them all.
Coastal community. Historically, I know Anslery, I think the history says that you had probably close to 100 plantations and in that area. We have all sugar mills. It's known for all of that kind of economic activity, the fertile lands and so forth, the fishing community as well, very industrious and hard-working people. And of course, you have that distinct privilege to represent these wonderful people. So tell us about how that is going on, some of the initiatives that you are taking in that area.
Well, when I assumed office, the Jackmel playing field was a swamp, the Roseau Taverna Road was a swimming pool, and the Millet Community Center was simply a garbage dump. And what we have done now is, I am happy to tell you, Ricky, that in 4.5 years, working with my constituents, getting the support of my cabinet colleagues, we have been able to transform the Jackmel playing field into one of the best playing fields in St. Lucia outside of the national arenas. We have been able to transform the Millet Community Center into a state-of-the-art human resource development center. It has been closed for some 9 years. We have done training there for hundreds of young people within a short space of the reconstruction and the reconfiguration of the facility. And now, when it took you about half an hour from Vanna to Roseau, it now takes you all of about 5 to 7 minutes. In fact, when we were finished with the construction of the road, it then put up another problem, and that is we had a speeding problem because people were driving extremely fast. And so I'm very happy to see that we are moving along. We have some real exciting projects that we have done. When I look at the Millet playing field, the Millet community produced some of the best sportsmen and cricketers that St. Lucia has seen. And they had the worst playing field when I assumed office. And I thought that this was an incredible injustice to the sportsmen that I know in the Millet area. I mean, I played with some of them at the under-19 level, people like Aline Donovan and so on. Tremendous batsmen, people like Johnson Charles, who played with my brother Sergio in the St. Lucia national team. You also have Aaron Donovan in his time was a good cricketer. And the list goes on, Zavre Gabriel, Gaspar Prosper, and it's a long, long list of fine cricketers, ranging from Cameron Charles to all of the great cricketers that you would have seen in the last 10 years that have represented what is known as South Castries, came from Millet. But yet that community had one of the worst playing fields. And I thought it was an injustice to the valiant efforts that the young men of that community had made. We have as well in the Roseau Valley area, I mean, every single year, whether it's the Black Art tournament or the National FA tournament, you would see that the Roseau Valley team would give a very good account of itself. In fact, it has been in the semi-finals more often than not. But yet, their home ground in Jackmill has been abandoned. And so I'm very, very happy that we have been able to revitalize it. We are now going into phase 2, where we are now importing the lights to be able to set up the facility so we can complete the state-of-the-art work that we have done. The road in Blackstone, Jackmill, was a road that has been immotorable for quite some time. The people in the area, the minibuses, didn't want to drive to the road. And if you know it very well, it's the road that goes by the Jackmill Catholic Church. And that road was so immotorable that the minibus drivers would not pass. And just imagine you had, single mothers traversing up the road, coming from their grocery shopping, and they had very, very heavy bags. And those mothers really struggled for quite a long time. So I'm pleased that we finished the construction of that road. All of St. Lucia that's watching this broadcast would have been to funerals at the Jackmill playing field. And having been to those funerals, Ricky, what we saw was that the road was in such a deplorable state that, God forbid, if there's a rain, ladies who got nicely dressed for the funerals would have left there with a lot of mud on their shoes. And we were able to do that and to fix that in a manner that is very, very good for the best interests of the community and for all the people who came as patrons to funerals in the Jackmill area. So the cemetery road is also completed. One of the first projects we did as well in the community of Monda nearby was also the construction of a road that reduced a lot of flooding in the area. We haven't improved the drainage of the community. We saw that there was a significant advancement in the whole comfort and livelihood of the individuals in that area. And lots of different little inner community roads which had to be done. The last time we did the count, we had constructed over 14 different concrete roads to different private developments to assist in the whole infrastructure of the constituency. So we've done quite a lot of work.
You are working very hard indeed, Minister.
We have been pushing very, very hard. And, the last 4 years have been extremely exciting. But that's just Millet and Jackmill. There are some real exciting projects we've done in ancillary. For example, the health center, if you've driven to Soufriere recently.
Yes, I see a lot of work going on in that. And of course, health is very critical in that.
Very critical. And what we have done is that the health center will be completed sometime this year. It's very close to being opening. In fact, I would say, had it not been for COVID, we would have opened the health center already. But you see the progress when you drive past it.
Yeah.
The construction is pretty much finished, and they're about doing the finishing now. And
St. Lucians who will drive past, it's right next to the road. They see that.
That's absolutely correct. And, you know, it's a project that we started some 2 years ago. And, you know, when it's completed, it's going to totally enhance the healthcare situation in Ancillary and our ability to be able to take care of our people in the area. Back to Jackmel, we also did a preschool, which is going to be open later this year as well. It has a capacity to host about 150 students. And I want to thank the Caribbean Development Bank and the board at SSDF and all of the support that they've given to me to be able to implement this project. And as well, I have to say thanks to my colleague, Minister Spider Montoot, for his involvement in seeing this project through. And that project is completed as well. And we're just getting to the point of furnishing the building and operationalizing the building so that we can bring about a more comprehensive and a better quality education to the people of Jackmel. No doubt, I'm looking forward to this facility being able to serve them. Back to Ancillary, we started implementing our village tourism project late last year. And what this is going to do, you know, here you had Ancillary, where for many decades we had these coaster buses. They passed by, they stopped by the vendors for 10 minutes, and really they didn't stay for a very long time. They went to Soufrière. Now what our government has done, we have said that with village tourism, we will have an opportunity now to transform Ancillary into a village tourism destination in its own right. In doing so, we would have provided some 100-odd construction jobs in the various components of the project. And then when we are finished, we will see a tremendous generation of jobs, which will add to somewhere in the region of about 75 jobs for the residents of the constituency. So the components of the project, Ricky, include: one, we have the first village tourism hotel. We have about 10 rooms to be able to host at any given time about 30-odd guests in the village. We also have private investment, which is encouraged by a private family in Ancillary to transform their family home into a village inn and guest house as well. And these two projects are going to certainly help the whole revolutionizing of the village into a tourism destination. We are also putting a restaurant in the location where the old community center building used to be, and as well as the old fish fry building will be transformed totally to what it is now, to make sure that it is significantly advanced and make the whole waterfront of Ancillary that much more attractive. All the houses as well in the area on the waterfront, those houses are going to be transformed. We will be repainting those houses so that we can have a significant improvement in the ambience, so that when you come to Ancillary, you feel like you're in a totally different place. As well as on the main street of Ancillary, we have already begun work. We've gotten permission from several residents to begin the process of helping to beautify their homes, so that when you drive through the village, you get a better sense of what Ancillary is about. We are not taking away the whole village charm and mystique of Ancillary. What we are seeking to do
to enhance it.
Is to enhance it, is to beautify, is to brighten up, and to really take it to a next level. I am really, really excited for Ancillary, and truly satisfied with some of the works that we are
And as you
doing
speak,
there.
we have some of the images going on the screen. I think what is critical to point out is that the government and you as minister, in terms of the efforts, in terms of what we're doing on the ground, is really to be able to take development to a new and exciting level. I mean, we must understand that we are competitive in the tourism industry.
You
so
know,
it's not about
Ricky,
mediocrity.
when I go around the various constituencies, like I was in Castries Southeast the other day when Minister Guy Joseph launched a community center. It's a human resource development center at the Forest Day playing field on that site. And it dawned on me. I was in Soufrière, where Honorable Harold Stanislaus did the beautification of the square and all the stuff that he has done.
Bus terminal.
I was in Grosley when Minister Montoute launched the state-of-the-art Human Resource Development Center opposite the Grosley Infant School. I was in Babonneau when Minister Ezekiel launched the project to light his playing field. And I know Minister Gail Rigobot has recently set up her facility to open up a brand new preschool. She's building a swimming pool. I see that she's also doing some significant work on the Micoud Secondary School. When I think of it, we have done work all over St. Lucia. This government has performed, and we have delivered to the people of St. Lucia. And you know, if there's one thing that I feel very comfortable in, is that we have really delivered and we have done our best, despite all the challenges that you see that is hitting the world right now with COVID. And I know a little later on we will talk about that. But it is really a phenomenal performance by this administration when I look at some of the things that we have done. Look at what's happening in Grosley with the 4-lane highway and the construction of it to ease the traffic situations for the residents in that area. You go through the road by Key Largo and you see that, you know, that road has been widened. It now creates a good alternative for us to give us a good entrance into another part of St. Lucia and to access the back roads more effectively so that we can avoid the traffic. So really it's been a nationwide performance.
Absolutely. And I think it is important to point out that when we look at development, we look at the way that the landscape is being transformed, you have to step back into the past, perhaps 15 to 20 years, where development was, should I say, piecemeal, a little bit here, there, but clearly there is the capacity by this government to be able to really push and really deliver, I mean, a great deal of initiatives at the constituency, at the various level. I mean, I think that is indeed amazing to see that the level of skill and talent and how the government has been able to articulate and to ensure that the vision in terms of empowering people and meeting those development objectives in terms of how it delivers on the project. So in terms of the implementation and delivery, I think that the government is doing quite a lot in that regard, and kudos to you, Minister, and the government in that regard. Share with us that kind of passion and ethos and how, as ministers, you will get together to be able to deliver that pace. St. Lucians have not seen that kind of pace of development within a term or a cycle, so to speak.
Well, I noticed that you've done a great injustice to your hometown of Canaries. I know you have very strong roots in Canaries, and you haven't asked me anything about Canaries.
Yeah, we come into Canaries,
but,
yes.
But before I answer that question, I think I want to deal justly and rightly with the development in Canaries. And, you know, some of the loveliest people in St. Lucia you will find in Canaries. When we came in, the Ministry of Education was faced with an issue where the roof on the school, at the infant school, was in an untenable situation where you used to have the poor teachers using dustbins and buckets to collect water whenever it rained. What did we do? We came in straight away. We found a solution. And, you know, you would note, Ricky, that we raised the spending of the Ministry of Education from $1 million for the school maintenance to $10 million, because we felt that it is absolutely crucial that the education of our students must be given priority. And so Canaries benefited significantly from this, and within an earshot, we had our infant school roof brand new, totally overhauled. And now the students of the infant school at Canaries are in a better position to sit in their classroom. When it rains, they don't have to wonder about whether the roof will leak or whether their books will get wet or whether their classes will be interrupted. The playing field, the previous administration attempted to reconstruct the playing field, and they made such a bad mess of the job. And I'm on the record of saying so. I said so in front of the former Minister of Sports in the previous administration in the Parliament. And I said that the wiring was badly done. The Ministry of Infrastructure would not have approved the electricals because the situation was so untenable that they were worried that it was a fire hazard. And so we had to go in, we had to dig up the wires which were done on the ground, we had to do significant repair work and to get the lighting reorganized. But in doing so, we would have done a lot of damage to the playing surface. We had to go in and to totally redo the playing surface. And now I'm happy to tell you that about 2 years ago, we opened up a brand new field in Canaries, which looks a lot better. And I believe that it will significantly add to the work of the sportsmen in the area. I know that your son, David, might be watching the show. So we must shout out David, who has done a tremendous work in the area. David is a really good coach for youngsters, has been a leading striker for the Canaries football team.
He has a passion for youth work, sports and development, yes.
Tremendous young man. And, he's just like his father. But I'm very, very happy for the sportsmen of Canaries. Now, David is a good friend of mine. But when the field was closed for about a year, David was keeping my life miserable on Facebook.
Oh yeah,
I don't know where he got that from.
Yes, the thrust and the push, the passion. Yeah.
But I'm very, very happy with what we've done. They've got a good system going on. They play a lot of cricket. In fact, I used to go from time to time and take my little knocks there with the guys. And, it was really good fun. It was Belvedere versus Canaries. And then whenever they needed a stronger opposition, I used to bring the Roseau team, and I played for Roseau, and we had lots of fun. So we're looking forward for COVID-19 and all the protocols to subside a bit. Hopefully that will allow us to go back playing. The big project really, though, for Canaries, Ricky, is the waterfront redevelopment. And this project is being done through the OECS Tourism Competitive Project. The Prime Minister gave me significant support in being able to get this done. We have not started the construction yet, but the drawings have been significantly advanced. We are close to getting DCA approval, which will put us in a good stead to be able to start construction of the project a little later on this year. But this, I believe, will add significant benefit to Canaries, which really needs an economic thrust, which needs that advancement. And so you would know that on the bay north of the Canaries jetty, there is some wonderful coral reef in the area. Some of the most beautiful diving and snorkeling can be done in that area. Oh, yes. But all of these wonderful opportunities are underutilized because successive administrations, they have just left that a begging, while we have a lot of idle, young, talented people in the area. And so what we are saying with this is that we have to go and we have to give them the best chance to be the best version of themselves. And so this project will create about 70 jobs once it's operationalized. During the construction phase, it should provide about 50 jobs as well for the young people of Canaries. So we are really looking forward to it, the amount of businesses that it can drive, and all of the initiatives that this can bring about.
Yes, Minister. Indeed. Tremendous work happening. Viewers and listeners, you're on to Constituency Vibes with me tonight. My guest this evening the Honourable Dominic Fede, Member of Parliament for Canarese Ancillary and Minister for Tourism, Broadcasting, and of course Chairman of the COVID Centre as well. So we have an interesting discussion tonight on constituency vibes to enlighten you in terms of what is happening and the many initiatives and thrust of the government in that regard. Now, Minister, again, let us broaden the discussion as well to touch a little bit on COVID. You are Chairman of the Command Center. So perhaps you can start by giving us an overview of the situation as it relates to COVID.
Well, you know, the Caribbean right now it's going through a wave. I mean, you would have seen that Barbados just before New Year's Eve, they would have shut down their country for about 14 days because they would have seen a significant amount of community spread. St. Vincent followed with a lockdown. We've seen Turks and Caicos recording a lot of cases as well because of a community spread. What my information is saying, the brief that I'm getting suggests that because of Christmas activity, where a lot of returning nationals tend to come back to Caribbean countries from high-risk COVID countries, that we may have had some breaches of the quarantine in addition to other festivities at Christmas, which acted as vectors or spreads, if you will, of the virus. And so I think that given the circumstance, we have had some 495 people who have recovered. I'm very happy and thankful to God for that. We see that I think one death is too many. But when you look at what has happened in the world with the rate of COVID deaths, it should be about 5% of your total cases. So we would have had to be somewhere in the region of about, I think we're now at 900 odd. We would have had to have had close to 45 people to die if we were up to where the world is. I am by no means trying to dampen or lessen the importance of the 13 people that have died. One is too many, but I'm thankful that it's only 13. And I want to issue our deepest and most heartfelt condolences to those families. Now, what I've learned from the briefs that we've received is that the individuals that have died, Ricky, are individuals that had underlying conditions. So it would have meant that they would have had varying illnesses which were exacerbated by COVID. So therefore, COVID made their existing preconditions worse. And as a result, they died. So I don't think that conclusively we have seen a statement from the Ministry of Health to suggest that they know conclusively that this individual has died because of COVID. When people die, they test them and they find that there is some level of COVID, but most instances we have seen those individuals would have been individuals with underlying conditions.
Minister, that's a very interesting, there have been a lot of discussion within the community and the society as to what is a COVID death exactly. I mean, in terms of when we hear the figures, we hear the numbers, as you were saying. Just a little explanation. Is it somebody who had, because let me put it this way, a lot of people, as you were saying, have underlying issues. And so I have been in areas where there's been big debate as to what exactly is a COVID death. And did somebody was COVID the predominant illness or so forth? How do we determine that from you?
Yeah, well, I think what I've just said is that when the person died and they would test you to see if you had COVID, but they have not been able to say that COVID is the reason why you died. But you are someone who died that had COVID, that they found some element of COVID within your body when you were tested.
Minister, the issue of borders, been much discussion and debate on that. Should be open borders or not? So share with us.
Well, Ricky, we have always said that we believe in the credo that countries around the world during the COVID pandemic will have to do two things. They will have to provide livelihoods for their population, but first and foremost, we will have to keep our population safe. So if, for example, we note that there is a risk in any area where the population is exposed to a fatal situation because of COVID, what we would do straight away, Ricky, is that we would take action to ensure that we keep the people of St. Lucia safe. We have been able to recover. I mean, when COVID happened back in March, every single hotel employee, all 15,000 of them, were without jobs. We then went to the Parliament, we amended the NIC Act, and we allowed those individuals to be able to get some level of assistance by unemployment benefits. But that really could have only lasted for 6 months. The NIC Act was not designed to go for a long period to give unemployment benefits. And so what would have happened is that if we continue giving unemployment benefits, then we would have significantly affected the NIC that is there for people's pensions and so on. So you had to be very careful how you deal with the whole business of going to an institution like NIC to get money to pay individuals who are unemployed. So
let me just interject here, Minister. There's a school of thought that as we deal with the borders, that the government should not open the borders and just provide relief to people. That is a popular school of thought from other circles.
If we had the ability to print monies, like some of the first world countries, then that would be okay. But in this case, there's no country in the CARICOM region that is able to do that for a sustainable period. It's not possible.
There's
no country in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
But where are you going to get the money from? COVID has significantly reduced government revenues. So if you think of all the taxes you get from tourism, every time a guest comes through the airport, you would have been able to collect some $100 US. The last time I checked, at 400 arrivals, we would have added some $78 million in revenue to the coffers, just on departure taxes, just coming through the airports. Every time a guest stays in a room and they pay an average of $2,000 US, 10% of that is paid to the government in VAT on the room sales. I mean, multiply 400,000 by 2,000 and divide it by 10%. So that's the kind of significant losses. So what we have seen is that on average, that the government has lost about 45 to 50% of its revenue on a monthly basis. It ranges from about 45 to 50 million if you had to go on an average. Some months are better than some, but the average we have seen is about 50% of government revenue totally disappearing. Now, the expenses of government
and which
didn't decline.
Into the economic fallout from the COVID as well.
Yeah, so the expenses of government didn't get any less. We still have to pay for schools, pay rent and buildings, pay salaries, which, by the way, is about $43 a month, $43 million a month. We're still debt servicing is significantly high. I think the last figure I saw is about 27 a month, 27 million monthly. I think that figure is. So, Ricky, what you're seeing. Sorry, I mean 270 million monthly. Annually, sorry, 270 million annually. So what you're seeing, Ricky, is a significant economic crunch. You've seen a significant destruction to government revenues. And government is really unable to do some of the things that it would have been able to do during the time of COVID. Now, a lot of people have said, oh, why are you constructing roads? A lot of the roads that we are constructing are monies that come with conditions. So we had loans from our friends, the Taiwanese. Those loans were negotiated. It took a number of years to be able to do, and they came with conditions. The road on the West Coast Road Project, those roads are being sponsored by DFID, which is from the United Kingdom's International Agency for Development. Those monies were negotiated a long time ago. The World Bank, they made some monies available for COVID, for income support, and for also to ensure that people, small businesses that needed assistance and individuals, we had about 6,000 people who qualified between the months of April and I think around September was the last payment we made that qualified for income support. We expanded the number of individuals who's in the public assistance list. We also went ahead and included the payment of electricity bills. We have a program to give electricity bill support to thousands of people who qualified under the income support program. Plus, we were dealing with another 18,000 applicants under the National Insurance Scheme income support program under the Economics Recovery Program. So we have done a lot, Ricky, to help in many ways that we can. We had our farmers who needed about $2 million because the NFTO, they weren't getting the monies from Windfresh. Windfresh is in a financial difficulty. And, you know, when you look at what's happening, St. Lucia being the only banana exporting member of Windfresh, it then tells you the commitment of other countries. So we had to bear the brunt of the burden in making sure that Windfresh is in a good position so that our farmers can continue exporting their bananas. And so all of these problems came at you, and you had to sort of deal with them. And, you know, I have a new appreciation for my Prime Minister because I looked at how he dealt with them in such a way that is very cool, precise, calculating, strategic. And, you know, he just went on and did what we had to do. I want to really commend my cabinet colleagues as well, because I know that we really had to push 300% because of COVID. This is not easy. This has caused an economic destruction. The 2008 crash is incomparable. The 1987 crash globally is incomparable. The oil crisis of the 80s is incomparable to the economic destruction that this has caused. This is now, economists around the world are now saying that this is the worst economic catastrophe the world has seen since the Great Depression of the 1930s. So really what St. Lucia, a little country, is having to experience is an external shock that makes it even more vulnerable. And all the Caribbean countries are going through that pinch as well. And if you follow what's happening regionally, you would see that the problems that we have got locally are not immune to us, but they are part of a larger Caribbean problem, which is being unleashed on the region. Go ahead.
And let me add, Minister, that, well, the World Bank, the IMF, and regional economists, leading development economists, are the prescription is that governments, particularly developing countries, must go into capital programs of infrastructure to generate revenue and create employment for the people as well. So you are getting that kind of technical advice from the economists, the leading authorities, in terms of how countries should be able to pursue and to cover some of the impact. And we're hearing on from the other side on the ground here that that's not a good move, that we should just be,
So the majority of St. Lucians are dignified people, are people of class, who don't want a politician to give them a handout, But who only wants a politician to give them a job and to say, give me an opportunity? And that is the dignity of the people of St. Lucia. They're better people than wanting to depend on you. And so what we are about is creating opportunity for as many people as possible, notwithstanding all the challenges that we're going through with COVID-19. And so part of the COVID response was to ensure that we use our construction projects to help to stimulate the economy. So a waiter who is no longer employed with the hotel industry because of the massive layoffs and the shutdown can now use this downtime to be able to create income for his family by working on one of our projects. And that is how significant they are. But I can tell you straight, Ricky, that the opposition has made this so much about politics, because I think that they've realized that these projects are really resonating with the people of St. Lucia. And the people of St. Lucia, they have recognized that this is a good time for us to really rebuild our country, to deal with some of the chronic outstanding infrastructure issues. There are issues since Hurricane Tomas. That was 11 years ago. And there's no better time than now than to repair those problems. I mean, in my constituency, the road from Venus to Ancillary is still not operable. You know, you go around the countries and you still see the yellow barriers because of a precipice of a road that was destroyed since Hurricane Tomas. So I believe that there's no better time than now to rebuild the country, but at the same time create much needed jobs in the economy that our people so rely on.
And those jobs are created at the constituency level to have that kind of big impact and to empower people as well. Listeners and viewers, you are listening to Constituency Vibes. My guest this evening is the Honorable Dominic Fede, Minister of Tourism and Broadcasting and Chairman of the COVID Center, and of course, Member of Parliament for Canry's Ancillary. We'll be opening the lines. The number to call is 456-0931 as we continue our discussion. Minister, the issue of the test, how many we should have, what kind of tests, share with us. How are we doing that? Are we doing the right tests? What's happening? There's so much discussion and debate about this test, the COVID test.
Well, I have never been to medical school a day in my life, so I never profess to know everything. But I have the utmost confidence in our CMO and everything that she continues to say. So my brief on this has been that the gold standard, and my research has also shown, that the best test and the most reliable test is the PCR test. What is called the antigen test or the rapid test or the quick test, that test is not an accurate test. I have seen academic and medical experts around the world suggest that it ranges in terms of accuracy from 30 to 70%, but it depends on the rate of COVID that's in your body. So if you have a very strong level of COVID in your body, I think that the likely of chance of that being accurate increases. But if you are asymptomatic and you don't have symptoms, then it reduces the ability of the rapid test to be able to give you a very good result. So that's everything that my briefs and also my research has shown me. Interestingly, I don't know of any rapid test that's approved by the FDA or any rapid test that's approved to say that this one is accurate or as good as the PCR by the WHO. And that's what I know. So what we have done is that we have really focused on the PCR because COVID is so critical.
We took the lead in that from very early, yeah?
From very early.
In the region.
So if you're coming to St. Lucia from another country, especially from a high-risk area, you need to get tested with the PCR test. We have been hauled over the coals for this. Because when a lot of those same voices who speak now were saying to us, remove those protocols, allow the tourists in. We are bankrupt in the country. We stuck to our guns. We showed that the most important thing was the safety of the people of St. Lucia. And so we didn't go like other destinations. I mean, there were destinations in the north of the Caribbean. We're allowing people in without the test. And their numbers were looking a lot better than we did. But we resisted that temptation because we felt that as a government, your number one obligation is the health of your people. It is the safety of your people. And so, Ricky, I'm very happy that we stuck to our guns. A lot of other countries followed what we did. And as a result, you see that the protocols we've put in place have significantly reduced the risk. We're not saying that there's zero risk. There is risk. If you are going to have someone to come from the United States, the UK, or other high-risk countries, you will have some element of risk. But what I can say to you is that we have significantly reduced the risk by the protocols that we have put in. And so call us conservative, but we have done so. Now, you also have a situation where your own nationals live in these countries. And once your borders are open, you will have your returning nationals coming in from time to time. Now, we have spent millions in our quarantine facilities. The last figure I saw, it was close to $10 million that we had exhausted in making sure that we can run these facilities so that we can protect the country of people coming in. We had to change the policy so that we can allow St. Lucians who wanted to come home to do a blend of home quarantine and also institutional quarantine at the cost of the traveler. We made some exemptions for students and for as well as people traveling for medical reasons and other special groups of people. The farm workers from Canada, for example, didn't have to pay. And so the government was still carrying that tab. But once you put people in home quarantine, we noticed that there are significant breaches, both from whistleblowers in the community, as well as reports we've received from the police, as well as our own contact tracing interview. We had a situation where there was one lady who hosted a party while she was in quarantine. And this was a situation in the South where many people who attended that party then took the virus into communities that didn't have it before. So this is the severity of this thing, and this is how infectious COVID has been. So to answer your question, Ricky, what we have just decided is those countries that require their nationals, when they come as tourists, to return home, to get tested. I know in the UK and in the US they do a rapid test. We will now allow the private sector to handle the rapid testing situation so that it can reduce our own capacity at the Ezra Long lab at Owen King EU Hospital.
Okay. The listeners and viewers, you're on to Constituency Vibes. The number to call is 456-0931, 456-0931, and with me tonight is the Honourable Dominic Fady, Member of Parliament for Anstey-Conneries and Minister for Tourism, Broadcasting and Information, and Chairman of the COVID Centre. We talk about some of the costs that the government has had to deal with, and I think that shows the commitment of the government to a large extent on health. I mean, we had the respiratory centre. The COVID situation led to areas where the government had to spend in areas that were not foreseen, particularly in the health sector. All of that boosting, increasing the capacity.
The initial budget was $31 million to get that going. I think we've really blown that by now. Really blown the 31 million. I haven't seen the last figure, but $31 million is what was budgeted for. And I know that we've passed it. Don't forget as well, we brought in as part of the Cuban Medical Brigade to help us with the management of COVID. And that, I think it was a number of about 120 individuals who came in to give us assistance in a lot of the areas. And we're very happy and thankful to the people and the government of Cuba for their significant assistance. We have had as many as 500 quarantine rooms operating at a peak across various quarantine centers. We had to invest in a lot of lab equipment to beef up the capacity of our lab. We had to bring in ventilators for a population our size. I think we would have had about 24 ventilators which would have come in to our country, and they're not cheap. We would have had to improve the number of testing kits and a whole range of issues. We opened up Owen King EU Hospital to be able to get that facility going, as well as look at the significant work done at Victoria Hospital in totally overhauling the Victoria Hospital so that we can put ourselves in a better place to be able to use it as solely a respiratory hospital where we can deal with COVID patients. Thankfully, Ricky, that we have had little cause. I think that the number of people who have been on a ventilator or who needed ICU care, very, very minuscule. I think it's less than 10 so far, so that is really good. Most of our cases have been mild to moderate cases, so it means that while you are seeing these numbers and so on, a lot of these people in first world countries, they would ask them to quarantine at home. But out of an abundance of caution, what we're saying is our health system is not overwhelmed or it's not stretched, so we can afford to put them in hospital. But we've had some 495 recoveries to date, and I'm very, very happy about that. And every day I look at the number of recoveries because I think that our headspace should be in the positive and not in the negative. And every day I see that we get 20, 40 recoveries, it gives me hope and it makes me feel very, very good.
Listeners, you're on to Constituency Vibes. The number to call is 456-0931, where we're discussing COVID-19 situation, its impact, and how the government is managing that. And with us as chairman of the COVID Command Center, the Honorable Dominic Fede, Member of Parliament for Canaries Ancillary, and Minister for Tourism, Broadcasting and Information. Minister, the whole issue about the new variant, the new strain, how is that impacting us and how we're dealing with that?
Well, the UK announced this in December, the middle of December, thereabouts. But based on their scientific research, it suggested that it was around since around September 2020. So it would have had about 3 months to percolate into communities around the world and so on, and to move into different countries across Europe, and it's in the US and in various Caribbean countries as well. And if you look at the announcements being made, just today I know a Caribbean neighbor would have announced that they had the variant as well. And it's really important to keep track to see what's going on in the rest of the region. So we really found out about it when the UK announced it. We then quickly went to research some of our cases. So the variant that you're speaking of are cases that weren't found in December, but are cases that were before. So we sent the samples to CARFA to verify whether our own research was correct. CARFA then confirmed that our suspicion was correct in those cases. In the 5 cases, there were 2 tourists and about 3 returning nationals that we suspected because they had very, very high viral loads of COVID.
Okay. All right, then, Minister, the other issue of, there's been much discussion about this double standards. Well, we have the standard for visitors, standard for locals. Can you clarify that matter? Speak to it.
No, there could be nothing from the truth, further from the truth. What we have done is we have invited individuals to our country, and we have reduced what is known as the St. Lucian tourism product. So the guests, for example, presently in the current protocols, they cannot go to the volcano, for example. They cannot go to the Castries market. They cannot rent a car. They cannot go to the grocery, they cannot go into our communities. There are a lot of restrictions that we have not allowed. There are a lot of restrictions in them coming, and there are a lot of freedoms that we have not allowed the guests to do. In some destinations, they allow them to roam freely after staying for 4 days, and they do a second test. But we have said no. We have made it clear in our promise to them that you're coming, you're going to the hotel, and you're only allowed to leave the hotel under managed circumstances. So you can go on those tours that are approved. If we believe that there's a particular tour that brings our population at risk, we certainly don't. And what we have done is we have trained thousands of hotel employees to be able to deal with positive COVID cases. So if you look at our frontline workers, in the same way that they deal with positive cases every day at the Victoria Hospital, the respiratory facility, but they're not getting COVID because they're following the protocol. And it is the same for us, that if we follow that protocol, then we don't have to become positive victims of COVID-19. And that is the key. The protocols are there, but our conformity with the protocols is what is going to make us succeed as a country.
All right. Thank you very much, Minister, for that. I think we were getting a call, but we lost that caller. Viewers and listeners, you're on to Constituency Vibes, 456-0931. That's the number to call. And we are bringing you the information in terms of the government's programs, what it's doing at the various constituency levels and at the national level as well. Minister, just let us focus again on the constituency, your constituency, the four major areas. Hello, good evening, caller. Hello?
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, we can hear you. Good evening. Go ahead, caller.
To ask a few questions to the minister. Is it possible that we could introduce second testing when visitors arrive to St. Lucia? Also, how long does it take to get a corona test back or PCR test back? And also, should we...
Hi, can you just repeat the second question? I'm just having some trouble hearing.
Sorry, the second question is also how long does it take to get a PCR test back in St. Lucia? My first question will also be, should we introduce testing to allow entry into restaurants, events, and larger gatherings? Also, is there a possibility that a second stimulus check is on the table for our people of St. Lucia? And my last question is, are we going to get any extended help for families with kids who attend school has no online devices? Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, caller.
Well, I'll try to remember all of them, Ricky. You would need to get me a piece of paper because, but I'll start with number one, okay? The first question is that the second test, first of all, we must differentiate between a test and a vaccine. The test will tell you you're positive or negative, but it doesn't cure you from COVID-19. So there is really no reason that a second test should allow you to go out. It would not change anything. We would still need you to do quarantine. So in our estimation, a second test only tells you day 4, day 5, day 6. You can do as many tests as you wish, but it doesn't change the fact that you're positive or negative. So what we have said is what is successful is the protocols. The protocols are still necessary, whether you test 1,000,000 times or whether you test one. The issue, I remember one being a stimulus check. We are trying to rebuild the economy. We've done a very good job in bringing back almost 80% of our hotel rooms, and some 6,000 employees are back in tourism. In fact, on the February the 3rd, we're seeing the Sandals chain announcing that they're opening their third resort here in St. Lucia. And so what we're seeing is that a number of hotels are carrying the strain. They're holding their own. There's confidence in what we're doing in the marketplace. People want to travel. And so we believe that we will continue to build and continue to drive this progress in tourism to be able to bring back a number of these jobs that St. Lucians would have been displaced from. We are making sure that our agriculture sector is not displaced as much as possible. We've given inputs and support to our farmers for local food security, in addition to making sure that our banana farmers can remain accessible to international markets as well. We are driving the construction industry to help to recover the economy so that we can ensure that we beef up some economic progress and create some opportunity for people to gain some income and take care of their families. I can't remember the other questions,
Caller,
to be honest. I would need a piece of paper if you don't mind.
Okay, go ahead, caller.
When we talk about a tourism bubble, what does that mean? How are we going to protect our citizens? For example, what if a tourist comes out of that bubble? What is the penalty? How do we fix that problem? Because sometimes we do see breaches in our hotels, we do see it in the airports, we do see it some places. So how do we put measures in place for people who breach these bubbles, the so-called bubbles that we have, and how do we make an example out of them, and how do we protect our people at this point? Because we know for sure that we've seen a lot of visitors walking on the streets without no mask. Does these rules apply just to citizens, or does it apply to visitors as well? And what would be the punishment if we were to reach in a situation where the bubble is being breached?
Thank you very much, caller.
So what I'll say to the caller, in the very same way, Ricky, is that if Tom Joe tested positive for COVID-19, that we would not go and publicize that Tom Joe is positive. And what we would do, we would take action against Tom Joe. Now, unless Tom Joe resists and doesn't want to give the health authorities the information, as we have seen with one of our positive cases, if he fails to cooperate with the health authorities to give them the necessary information for contact tracing, then they would be left with no choice but to inform the general public that they are at risk, because Tom Joe is not trying to tell them who he would have potentially been into contact with. The other thing is, we have taken action against a number of tourists, a number of tourism establishments. We have taken the strongest action you can possibly imagine. In fact, one of our hotels are presently closed based on the orders and the instruction of the government. But we understand that that same hotel would have provided jobs for over 700 St. Lucians, and several small businesses as well. And so what we don't want to do is to make that hotel's business public when that hotel is in fact cooperating and doing the necessary thing for us to stem the health situation. Now, oftentimes what happens in our community is that we would confuse expats and white St. Lucians who are living here, as well as we have people who are on boats at Rodney Bay Marina. They would have been there for several months and would not have left the country, but they're just on their boat, and those people would have finished their quarantine. And so therefore, once you're finished your 14-day quarantine and you get tested, then you're free to go out. So we have had a very, very strict situation for tourists, and as I've said to Ricky, they're not allowed to go to the volcano at present. They're not allowed to go to the Castries market. They're not allowed to rent a car. You can. They're not allowed to go into our local bars. You can. And so the rules, I mean, if you look at all the restrictions we've put in place, basically what we're trying to do, ma'am, is to protect you, protect your family, and protect all those people that you care about. And we are really trying to do our best so that, you or the people you love don't come into contact with anyone that is positive. But even despite our efforts, we still see people trying to get close to tourists.
Hello, caller. Welcome to Constituency Vibes.
Yes, hello, good night.
Good night to you, caller.
How much for a COVID test, and where you'll do it?
Okay. Thank you very much, caller. Question?
Yes, thank you, okay.
I know at the public facilities, they are free. That is the policy of the government. So you can go to various satellite clinics. You can go to the Grosley Polyclinic. You can go to the Leclerc Health Center. You can go to the Soufriere Hospital as well. I know that there's one in Vieux-Fort, and I think Dennery Health Center is the other facility.
Okay, caller, so you have that information in terms of you're on to Constituency Vibes. Our number is 456-0931. And with me tonight is the Honorable Dominic Fede, Member of Parliament for Canris Ancillary, Chairman of the Command COVID Center, and the Minister for Tourism, Information and Broadcasting. And of course, we enlighten you in terms of the government's management of COVID, and of course the Minister dealt with a lot of matters relating to his constituency and the thrust and the kind of work that the government is doing at the constituency level. Now, Minister, what is interesting is that while we speak to, and I just wanted to talk about Soufriere a bit, while to show the kind of emphasis where the government has put in, the issue.
That's your second hometown, yes. The Canaries being the first.
We'll discuss that afterwards. Where health, the focus on health is the key. So the Soufriere, and I am on the Soufriere Foundation as well, that whilst, we would have loved the opportunity for visitors to visit Soufriere and visit the Sulphur Springs, we have over 200 staff, that would be good revenue, but the health and safety of our people comes first and comes paramount. And I think that kind of focus and emphasis from the government in terms of balancing both the economics and the health and taking those kind of tough stances is indeed commendable.
Yes, like I said, Ricky, we can do both. We don't have to shut down our economy and cause more destruction to our people's lives by, on the one hand, not managing the COVID situation well so that we cannot carry on with important economic activities so that our people can continue to work, continue to feed their families, and do all the things that an income can do, and to be able to support their lives, and that is critical.
Minister, this again switch to constituency vibes. Your constituency, they have the four major communities of Millet, Jacmel, Ancillary, and Canris, and you have outlined. It is amazing to see the scope and the depths of the kind of work that is done to impact and improve the lives of your constituents. And again, it is a new thrust, it is a new approach we see by this government in terms of the extent of the work that is done within the term in all the different areas. I just want you to touch and speak to that as well.
Well, Ricky, there's so much more to be done. And I think that we've had an incredible 4.5 years. I'm thankful that when I go around the constituency that constituents do commend the work that we've done. And so I think it's resonating with the constituents, which is the most important thing. And we just continue to press on to see how best we can continue to bring about change and progress in their lives. And I think that it's been an absolute pleasure working with them. The greatest honor in my life has been to serve the people of Ancillary Canaries. And, I thank God every day for giving me this opportunity to serve such wonderful people. And there are so many young people in the constituency with so many brilliant ideas that we've worked on together. I forgot to tell you that Ransom Studios, I know that people who are into recording music would know that Ransom is one of our top producers, and I want to big him up tonight because we are just working on a project with him to establish his studio in a bigger way so that he can now enhance his capacity to be able to do work across, not just in Lucia, but to do more work for the Caribbean as well.
Good night, caller. Welcome to Constituency Vibes.
Yes, good evening. I'd like to ask a question in connection with COVID, the COVID test. I'm hoping your guest would be able to understand since to answer since he's wearing more than one hat in that regard.
Go right ahead, caller.
There is what I understood is that there is a cost for the COVID test for persons
traveling.
Surgeries, no sir, surgeries. I know about the traveling, but I wasn't aware of the surgeries. I just had a friend who
Is that in a private hospital or private facility, or?
It was done. The test was done at Victoria Hospital. The person apparently is pregnant, and I think they need to do a surgery to I guess the delivery because there's some complication or whatever, right? But from what I was told, that the person was charged $265 for the test. So I was just wondering why is that? Because as you would probably well be aware, most of the people making babies in Lucia are probably the people who can least afford it. So I was just wondering if was not like an extra burden on these people, considering the time. I know it's a burden on the government, but it's even more burden on somebody who's probably not even working in those hard times. So if you're aware of it, and you can give some more information, I'll listen to you also.
But caller, what I'll say to you before you hang up is that I do agree with you, but it's something I need to review. I will check with the authorities to make sure that that is so. But as far as I know, all of the COVID tests for diagnostic purposes are free from the government.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I heard it directly from the CMO only like the previous day, and only yesterday the friend told me that that was so. And I actually got confirmation from the hospital that it is so. So I guess it's something you have to probably investigate and probably.
I will investigate, and what I'll do, I'll give it to Ricky to clarify on a following show, because I don't want to believe that is so, but I have to verify my information before I make a public pronouncement that is conclusive. So, but thank you so much all the same. That is something that we will investigate. Maybe you can drop Ricky your number privately, and we can call you up to put you at ease. But it is an important one.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, Phil. Listeners, viewers, you are on to Constituency Vibes. The number is 456-0931. My guest tonight, the Honorable Dominic Fede, Member of Parliament for Anslury Canreeds, and Minister for Tourism, Information and Broadcasting, and Chairman of the COVID Command Center. Hello, good evening. Welcome to Constituency Vibes.
Good evening, Good evening, Mr. Fede.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Question. I think a caller did mention of the price. Is there a regulated price when a PCR test is done by a private entity?
We are just now going into privatizing aspects.
Caller, let me just, is that all you want to ask? So we
No. I want to follow up on his answer.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're just now, all of the PCR tests were being done at the lab. We're just now going in, we're having discussions as we speak with the private sector for them to be able to do the testing for individuals who need to travel and for tourists, so that we can reduce the burden on the lab at the Owen King EU facility. So
the reason why I asked you, Mr. Minister, is I was in talks with the staff at a particular hotel, and she told me that there's a private lab that was asked to do the test at that hotel, and then the price that that private lab is asking is so exorbitant that the guests are complaining. And she did mention if that's the case, that itself could deter tourists from coming into St. Lucia, because she made reference that the lab is charging $700 US per couple. And then the general manager at that hotel is looking for somebody else to do at a cheaper rate. So are you aware of that? Have you heard that?
no, I have not. What I can tell you is that at the airport, if, for example, a tourist needs to do a test, because if we are not satisfied with a certain test result when they come in, we would charge them $100 US, and that's just tourists coming into the country.
Well, I know that. Sorry to cut you short. I know that, but that is for tourists leaving the country, because now that they need a negative test entering the country, the US.
I will need to verify, and much of that we will need to verify, and certainly we will have some discussions with some of the individuals doing those tests to make sure that, whatever prices that are being charged, although it is hard for government to really stipulate to the private sector how to run their business. But that would be of much concern if it is as much as $700.
That is price gouging now. Definitely price gouging, if that's the truth. But Mr. Minister, I do have your number. I will call you and give you further details as to where and who.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so very much, and thank you for listening to the show tonight.
Thank you very much, caller. You're on to Constituency Vibes. Hello, good evening, caller.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, welcome to Constituency Vibes.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Minister.
Good evening, madam.
I have two questions for you.
Sure.
No, actually, I have a question for you, and I have a query.
A query?
As in, my query is, there is a saying that the Prime Minister will be interviewed by some international media about the way he dealt with the COVID problem.
Yes.
When is that going to take place?
Well, I know he has done several interviews already. It's unfortunate that we don't get the opportunity to see these things, but I know CNBC, NBC, the Prime Minister has actually been asked by his CARICOM colleagues and his OECS colleagues to lead the Caribbean in terms of the reopening of the region's tourism industry and vital industry. We know that St. Lucia's protocols were used as a benchmark to be able to standardize the opening of many facets of the regional tourism sector. So we've gotten quite a lot of kudos for the great work that we continue to do here in St. Lucia. But unfortunately, I don't know if there's a specific interview you're speaking of.
Okay. Question number 2.
Yes?
I have been seeing with the closure of the industries in the Caribbean and with a lot of global problems within the sea, there seems to be a problem coming on with the seas lately, dealing with fish. What are you all going to be putting in place to try to, let me put it like this, to try to protect not only tourists but locals from those fish coming into the coast? These are fish that don't normally come to the coast, but it seems as if right now they are being sighted in St. Kitts, in other areas where they come all the way to the shore. And so I'm just asking, are you all thinking ahead as to, what you all could be putting in place to assist, especially the locals? Because yes, we love our tourists, but we're thinking of our locals first and foremost. Kids going out into the waters and, could you please expound?
Thank you. Well, incidentally, today the Prime Minister actually chaired a meeting with the World Economic Forum for small island developing states and the role that the blue economy can play in the advancement of those economies. I'm not the lead minister on this particular topic, but I'll try my best to answer based on the discussions I've seen at Cabinet and in different forums. What I can tell you is that
Can you kindly hold on?
blue economy, the ocean, our ocean world is something that is of tremendous importance to our government. We will and have been working on various projects with international agencies to see how best we can reduce the runoff of toxins from the island itself or from the land, and to see how best we can protect our coral reef, protect our water quality, and to take steps towards introducing a better water quality overall, so that when you and your family go to the beach, that the quality of the water that you're swimming in is that much better.
Thank you for holding, caller.
Hi, good night.
Good night.
Good evening.
Mr. Ferry, good night to you too.
Good night.
Yes, the CMO said that the private doctors are doing the test for free. But if you have to travel, you have to pay $100 US. So I don't know where that person got the 700 DOS from.
Yeah, I don't think the private doctors are doing it for free.
That's what the CMO said.
No, it would be our clinics would do it for free. So the private clinics, but I don't think it is for free.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it would come at a charge.
Okay then.
Yes.
But that's what I understood from what she said. Huh?
Oh, okay. Well, I will verify with her tomorrow. And
Okay.
that's another one, Ricky put that on the list, that we have to make sure that we bring, true information to the people. So Ricky will clarify that for you
And
as
last
well.
night, Mr. Oh my God, the bow tie gentleman.
Oh,
Yeah,
Mr.
Mr.
Norbert
Norbert.
Williams.
No, but last
Just
night
call him
he
Mr.
said
Bowtie
that
for now.
The interview would take place at 10 o'clock this morning, if MSNBC.
Oh, that was 10 o'clock this morning. Okay.
This morning. Yes.
So,
Because they said 9 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock local time.
yeah. So we will, I'm sure that Jemmy, who is pretty good, I'm sure the PM will be releasing on his social media the interview in its entirety, and those of us who would have missed it will be able to pick it up.
Okay then, thanks.
Okay?
Thank you very much, caller.
Thank you for calling, and thank you for listening.
Minister, we have a question on Facebook. If you are coming from the U.S. and you have your vaccine, do you still have to quarantine when entering St. Lucia? Welcome, good night, caller. Welcome to Constituency Vibes.
Yeah, good night.
Good night, sir.
Yeah. What I want to say is that, yeah, good night.
Good night.
Good
Go right ahead, caller.
Yeah, what I want to say is that a lot of people is saying to close down the borders. But you cannot close the borders, because if you close the borders, you have agriculture depends on tourism. You have manufacturing depends on tourism. Then you have goods and services depend on tourism. And you have all these other people who depend on the tourist industry. You cannot close the borders. It will be chaos if you close the borders. That's what I have to say tonight.
Yeah, and what if, not only that, caller, what if something happened to you or I medically and we have to travel overseas for treatment?
Yeah, because all the medicine comes by the flights.
Yeah. And we would need to travel to go see a doctor, Martinique, all these places we need to go to if we need to.
Yeah, and you have places like DHL, you have E-Zone. All these places will have to close down. You know, because all of them depends on the border to survive.
All right. Thank you very much, caller.
Thank you, caller.
Okay, that's a skinny.
Okay.
Oh,
Skinny.
I know I recognize the voice.
Yeah, I thought so. Thanks for your contribution,
Well,
Skinny.
Skinny, we want to thank you for all of your efforts. What a great patriot you have been to St. Lucia, and we want to thank you for doing such a giant work with such humility. And, you know, I admire you all the time and have a lot of time for you. So thank you.
Yeah.
And my best regards to your family.
49 years in the tourist industry.
I know you did. Sandals the top.
Years, and all my children used to go to the hotel as babies. Today they're working. My son is one of the accountants at Lispo.
Ah.
And my daughter works at Cap Maison.
Right. And I know you did a lot of time at Cunard, a lot of business
yes,
there.
Talk, yes.
Yes.
Mostly all the hotels in St. Lucia.
Great stuff. Great stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
But the tourist
Skinny
industry
from
is the
time to
backbone of
time
the
with
economy of St. Lucia.
great stuff.
Nothing else to touch the tourist industry. Not even bananas right now.
All right.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you very much for your contribution.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Minister, yes, we're saying we have a Facebook question from Facebook.
Oh, the question about the vaccine.
Yes. If you're coming in from the U.S. and you have your vaccine, do you still have to quarantine when entering St. Lucia? Let's just take that call. Hello, good evening, caller.
Oh, hello.
Welcome to Constituency Vibes.
Good evening.
Could you speak a little louder, please, caller?
Can the minister tell us when the vaccine will be administered in St. Lucia, when we will receive it in St. Lucia?
Okay, thank you. Hold on, caller. Do you have any other questions? Or are you going to listen up? Okay, thank you very much.
So we got two vaccine questions, when and whether you need quarantine. So the first one is, I'll do the one by phone, and that one actually is, what I know is that we are expecting enough vaccines for 40% of the population by the end of March, where
Could you please hold, caller?
where we'll be in a position to deal with the most urgent cases. So senior citizens, people with underlying conditions, frontliners, and all the most important demographics in our community is the first one. And then the second one about whether a vaccine would necessitate you to have to quarantine. I think that because it is still new and the world is still studying it, I know that the Ministry of Health is monitoring the situation for now. And what they will do, Ricky, is to assess the situation as we go on, but the protocols will remain the same as of now. And I'm sure that later on they will be adjusting as new data from the world becomes available.
Okay, wonderful, Minister. Viewers, you want to Constituency Vibes? Hello, good evening, caller.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome to Constituency Vibes.
Minister.
Good evening, sir.
How you guys doing?
Oh, it's the gentleman from, is it Bermuda?
The gentleman from Badam/Conway, that lives in Bermuda. Okay?
How are you, my friend?
I want to see you guys do a good job.
Thank you.
But I don't have a question to you.
You know, I was speaking with a good friend of mine about you. I said to him, I've never met this guy in my life, but I really would love to meet him because you're so passionate whenever you call.
You met me, man. You met me. I was at the ball, and I asked you a question about Kenny Anthony when you were leaving.
Ah, that's you. Okay, I got you now. Oh, got you. Right.
Guy with a big head, ugly face. You never know. You sure you remember me?
We will have to meet again.
Okay, I know. Okay,
yes.
All right.
All right.
That's not important. That's not important anyhow.
Okay.
What I got to say is this here.
All right. Thank you, caller. You have any? Hello?
Yeah, he's making his contribution.
Yeah, go ahead.
What I have to say is that the SFP got to stop doing it wrong and fooling my people, giving them a 649. I heard today they're praising me about me for what he stands as she's taken. He stands that she was taken, right? But what they failed, the same standards that they're praising me about for, our great Prime Minister, the greatest Prime Minister on the planet, visionary Prime Minister, Sir Alan Michael Shaftesbury and his dream team took those stances a year ago and they were against it. You understand what I'm saying? Fooling every day. Those guys need to be locked up, man. Those guys need to be in prison. They shouldn't be walking the streets. They just feel as the notion of damn stupid and backwards and ignorant. You know what I'm saying?
Caller, we just be careful, caller, with the descriptives that you use. We want to keep the show
saying
clear.
he didn't say that they are. He's saying they believe that solutions are.
Okay, you gotta listen to what I'm saying, man. I say they believe that solutions are dumb, backward, and stupid.
Duly noted, caller. Was just making sure.
Okay? I know what to say, man. Okay?
All right.
They just go wrong. Everything they just oppose. They gotta remember. We forget. They bankrupt St. Lucia. Okay? They cannot fix the road or fix a school and nothing. Nobody, no event agency locally, regionally, and internationally would not make them a penny. Saying that, and the Minister of Finance, former Prime Minister, saying something happened. Why you don't tell the people what happened? Why they don't answer to Mr. C.I.O. King, the world-renowned architect, engineer, about the DSH? Huh? Why they talk about why they over St. Jude? When they promise every month for 5 years. When they talk about the people at big parties, giving the hospital a name, one king, and cannot open it. And going around, just talk a lot of crap every day. What the hell do those guys think we are, man? That party needs to be closed down, man. I'm trying to hear those guys, boy. And would you believe that they have supporters? Would you believe that those guys have supporters?
Yes.
That party actually has supporters, has people that supporting them.
Thank you, caller.
Hello?
Yes, thank you. We understand the passion. Thank you.
People are thinking, hold on, man. Hold on, that's no problem, you understand? The SLT, the passion, they got the program to solution that you could call them the Alan Shafi program. That the party shall stay. And when guys are becoming Shafi, if people like you, Ricky, and those guys don't want people to give the SLT link.
No, I'm not saying that you shouldn't make your contribution. I'm just saying, I just thought that to wrap up. Thank you. Caller, I was not saying that you should make a contribution. I was just trying to ascertain whether you are making any contribution and managing the time. Thank you very much, caller, for your cooperation. Good evening, listeners and viewers. You are on to Constituency Vibes. The number is 456-0931. We will be wrapping up very shortly, and so you can definitely make your calls in that regard. Yes, Minister, you.
Yeah, so we were saying that we would need a vaccine, but, very passionate caller, a very staunch supporter and believer of what we're doing, and I want to thank him for the call and for his own views on things. And we live in a democracy, and we certainly have to allow everyone to be able to make their contribution. But I want to thank him very much, and I'm always very amazed by his passion, and he's certainly very much a very astute political commentator, because he's very much aware of a lot of the issues, and he is on point with a lot of the issues that he has enunciated so far. So
he's been following the events and keeping up very closely.
He knows the political history of this country very well. And the point about where not a single international agency would have lent them any money, that is absolutely true. At present, you would find that St. Lucia has a lot of bonds that or market-driven debt that dominates its debt portfolio, and that is because if you go back, you would see that there was a significant portion of those monies were borrowed starting from 2004. So he is absolutely correct that you need leadership that would bolster confidence, that would have a sort of aura about it, that even the international community would understand the vision. There's a saying that you need to cast the vision and make it plain, and where there's a lack of vision, the people absolutely perish.
Indeed. Callers, you're on to Constituency Vibes. With me, my guest tonight, the Honorable Dominic Fede, Member of Parliament for Ancillary Canaries and Minister for Tourism, Information Broadcasting, and Chairman of the COVID Command Center. The number to call is 456-0931. And we will be about wrapping up our program, so there are a few minutes that you could call in. And of course, we are happy that people have been responding to the program and calling, and we have been sharing that information with you to enlighten you and to give you the right information, so you have access to the information, so you are aware of what is going on, and so you can dispel some of the rumors and the misconceptions that's out there. This is your government at work for you, working hard to build and create a new St. Lucia throughout the length and breadth of St. Lucia. And at Constituency Vibes, we're bringing you these programs and activities and initiatives of the government for you to see for yourself the extent of the work, the passion, the commitment, and the drive of the government, the kind of servant leadership that you have in the members of the cabinet, and our hard-working team of men and women, and our visionary members of cabinet led by Prime Minister Honorable Alan Shafi. The number again is 456-0931. And Minister, as we wrap up, let me give you the time to say some remarks in terms of your constituency to the people.
Well, Ricky, I want to thank my own constituency for their continuous belief in me and their continuous trust in me, for making sure that the right decisions are made with us. I will continue to consult you. I will continue to seek out your ideas so that we can have the best solutions for the development of the constituency, so that the constituency of Ancillary and Canaries that we know it is going to be better than the way we found it. And when our generation would have passed on, that we would have left a more wonderful and prosperous constituency for those that are coming after us. We are indeed very thankful for those that have laid the foundations for us and those that have continued to inspire us, and we continue to build on the work that they have started. To them we owe a significant debt of gratitude. And Ricky, I am so honored, and I think it really is the greatest pleasure to have served in the last 4.5 years. I want to thank my cabinet colleagues for the tremendous diligence that they have shown in their own respective ministries. I want to thank our Prime Minister for his visionary and strong leadership. And I want to thank all the callers tonight for their own contribution to the show tonight. They ask the right questions and said the right things. And clearly it says to me that the electorate in St. Lucia is one that is very intelligent and one that will keep governments honest, because I think that they know the right solutions for our country when they hear it, and certainly it does evoke something within their spirits and in their hearts. And so, Ricky, the work that we have done, the task that we met before us was an enormous task, and it required a lot of resolve, a lot of faith, a lot of compassion, patience, and strength. It requires godly providence. It required justice. It required love for us to be able to accomplish and overcome all of the mountains that stood in our way. It was like a 4.5-year campaign that never stopped. And I think now the people are tired of the politics and they're ready for solutions. The question tonight is whether the opposition is up to the task of putting together a set of tangible, realistic, attainable list of solutions to be able to bring about real change in this country. And the answer is clearly no. And like the caller who so passionately and eloquently elaborated tonight, that they are far from being able to carve a narrative and to have a vision for this country to take it forward. The size of the political discussion from the opposition has been disappointing, because it has been smaller than the magnitude of the problems that we face. And what we need are real solutions. We need a government with vision. And Ricky, I think that I made the right choice when, as a young politician, I chose to be a member of the United Workers' Party. And so I'm very happy with what we're doing. And we have some challenges now, but I know that we will overcome these challenges, and we will certainly place St. Lucia on a good footing for greater progress and success in the 21st century. Thank you very much for having me. Thanks to all of your listeners. I want to thank your engineer who so graciously served us tonight, and thank you for the opportunity.
You're most welcome, Minister. It's always a joy to have you with us on the program. And as we wrap up, and in terms of, you made a critical point in terms of choosing to be on that side of the United Workers' Party with its vision. And let me read from the, in closing, let me read from the, if our cameraman can put this, you have clearly the United Workers' Party 35th annual convention booklet, our document here, and it speaks to the philosophy and history, the aspect of the philosophy, The United Workers' Party was born out of the burning love and passion that continues to ignite the hearts of men and women, farmers, teachers, the youth, and the ordinary men and women on the streets and in our communities. The philosophical underpinnings were born out of a firm and relentless desire to fight the wrong that needs resistance and to help the cause that needs assistance, a philosophy articulated by our founding father, Sir John George Melvin Compton. May he rest in peace. The light of love, respect, and determination continues to burn like a raging fire which no torrent can drown, with the fulfillment and realization of bringing the goals of social, economic, and spiritual attainment to every St. Lucian man, woman, and child. And clearly the efforts and the work of the government is clearly geared towards that, to ensure that we build a new St. Lucia and indeed make it a better place for all St. Lucian. I want to thank all our viewers at home and abroad in the diaspora, and all our listeners and our callers, and for gracing us with your calls and your queries and concerns and the wonderful discussions that we have had. And of course, we look forward to our next wonderful program. Next Wednesday, we have the Honorable Stevenson King, member for Castries North and Minister for Infrastructure, Works and Ports, will be with us next Wednesday, and we'll be having our discussions again on constituency vibes. I want to say a special thank you to the business establishment in the cul-de-sac, the pizza and chicken small business there. Of course, they give us, myself and Mr. Vitus, our engineer here, some good nutritive substances before we started the show this evening. So I want to thank all St. Lucians, and have a good night and follow the protocols and indeed stay safe. Thank you, and you're on to Constituency Vibes till we meet again next Wednesday. And thank you, Minister, again for being on the program.
People-centered, community-focused, building economic empowerment and resilience in our constituencies. Let's talk. Let us discuss. Constituency Vibes with me, your host, Ricky Alexander, every Wednesday on Sky FM 93.1 from 8 p.m. People-centered, community-focused, building economic empowerment and resilience in our constituencies. Let's talk. Let us discuss. Constituency Vibes with me, your host, Ricky Alexander, every Wednesday on Sky FM 93.1 from 8 p.m.